Hi Elke, this is your Monday art lesson and it's going to be a really good one and very interesting. And it begins with this image, which is a detail, because it's much bigger, of the Sistine Chapel ceiling by Michelangelo. Now, why do I want to talk about the Sistine ceiling? It's because of a conversation that we had when we were walking along the river road in town. And you said this to me. You said, I can't decide. I hope I say what you said right, because you like to remember every word. You said, I can't decide whether to go into interior design or astrophysics. And then you sort of wanted me to respond to that, and I didn't say anything for a long time, and you kept saying, Richard, speak, and I didn't say anything. So then I said this. I said, imagine that Elon Musk is 11 years old, he's talking to his teacher, and he tells his teacher, I want to be an interior designer. And the teacher doesn't go along with that idea, and he says, I don't think that's what you're going to do, because I think that you're destined to do something grand and complicated. Now, all of that I said would seem to imply that I do not have a very high opinion of interior decoration or interior design. And I have to ask myself about that. Is that really true? Are there any good examples of serious interior design that really matter to people in the world? Or is it just pillows and carpets and, drapes and stuff? Well, let's consider this. This is, and I'm not stretching the phrase, this is interior design. The Pope called Michelangelo into his office, and the Pope said, Michelangelo, I want you to do the interior decorations of the Sistine Chapel. And Michelangelo said, please, Pope, I am not a painter. I don't do paintings. I don't want to do that project. And the Pope said, too bad, you're going to do it. And the Pope said, I have a feeling this is going to be something really grand, really great, and the people will come from all over the world to see it. So you should, but Michelangelo was working in Bologna. This happened in Rome. He was working on a whole bunch of sculptures that he thought was going to take his whole life. And they were sculptures for the Pope, who he was talking to. And the Pope said, stop on the sculpture and do the ceiling. Now, there's a lot more to this story. I'm going to read it to you because it's so important. It's in Vasari's Lives of the Artists. This is one of those books like Huckleberry Finn that you're going to have to read eventually whether you want to or not. It's the only book ever written that describes the lives of the Renaissance painters like Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Raphael, their birth, how they trained, how they grew up, and they were very unusual people. And so it was a wonderful thing that Vasari, who was not a writer, wrote them, their lives. Now I'm going to read to you what happened before the Pope asked Michelangelo to do this ceiling, and it's a very kind of like weird situation. Here we are. Meanwhile, the Pope had returned to Rome with Michelangelo remaining in Bologna to finish the sculpture. In his absence, Bramante is an architect and very famous, almost as famous back then as Michelangelo, was constantly plotting with Raphael to remove from the Pope's mind the idea of having Michelangelo finish the sculpture on his return. In other words, they were plotting how to get the Pope to stop Michelangelo working on the sculpture. Why? Because he was becoming so famous because of these sculptures that he was making everybody else ignore, and they were jealous. Bramante did this, being a friend and relation of Raphael, and therefore no friend of Michelangelo. When he saw the way His Holiness kept praising and glorifying Michelangelo's work as a sculptor, he and Raphael suggested to Pope Julius that if the tomb were finished, it would bring nearer the day of his death. They threatened him with death. And they said that it was bad luck to have one's tomb built while one was still alive. Eventually, they persuaded His Holiness to get Michelangelo on his return to paint as a memorial for his uncle, Sextus, the ceiling of the chapel that he had built in the Vatican, the Sistine Chapel. In this way, Bramante and Michelangelo's other enemies, I say enemies, but it says rivals, thought that they could divert his energies from sculpture, in which they realized he was supreme. This, they argued, would make things hopeless for Michelangelo, since he had no experience of coloring in fresco, which is what you use for ceilings, and would certainly, they believed, do less credible work as a painter. Without a doubt, they thought, he would be compared unfavorably with Raphael, and even if Michelangelo had to leave Rome, I moved to the wrong page. And even if the work were a success, being forced to do it would make him angry with the Pope. And thus, one way or another, they would succeed in their purpose of getting rid of him. So when Michelangelo returned to Rome, he found the Pope resolved to leave the tomb and the sculpture as it was for the time being, and he was told to paint the ceiling of the chapel. Michelangelo, being anxious to finish the tomb, considered the magnitude and difficulty of the task of painting the chapel, and his lack of experience tried every possible way to shake the burden off his shoulders. But the more he refused, the more determined he made the Pope, who was a willful man by nature, and in any case was against being promoted by Michelangelo's rivals, and especially Bramante. And finally, being the hot-tempered man he was, His Holiness was ready to fly into a rage. However, seeing that His Holiness was persevering, Michelangelo resigned himself to do what was asked. Then the Pope ordered Bramante, his enemy, to make the ceiling ready for painting. And he did so by piercing the ceiling and supporting the scaffolding by ropes. When Michelangelo saw this, he asked Bramante what he should do. When the painting was done, how are you going to fill up the holes? Bramante said, we'll think of that when the time comes. And he added that there was no other way to do it. Michelangelo, realizing either that Bramante knew nothing about the matter or else was no friend of his, he went to the Pope and told him that the scaffolding was unsatisfactory. So, there's grandeur in the subject, and that's what I wanted to convey to you, because I thought that I may have given you the wrong impression, but I don't know. Now, it looks like this lesson has gone on longer than I thought, and it will be impossible to get through all the rest, but I'll give you a hint at what's coming. It's this. An oriental carpet. I want to talk to you in the next lesson about oriental carpets because of a conversation we had in which you said that you don't like them. And I said, all the carpets in your house are oriental carpets, and you should know they are not. The one in my bedroom is not an oriental carpet. And then I tricked you into telling me what it was when you were doing Minecraft on Friday. And you told me that it's, I don't remember, like gray with white flowers or something. So I have these kinds of carpets in my house. And you have them, and you say you don't like them, but I don't know if that was true. I want your assignment to be draw a carpet design. Best would be if it was not this type, but one that you like, and I would suggest you do it with collage. Cut up pieces of paper, design them into a carpet, and show that to me on Friday for certain, without any excuses, and buy some glue stick to do it with. That's your assignment. If you have any questions, I can't hear them because this is a movie. Talk to you later.